So there's a strategy in the real estate business called a lease option. That's where you lease a property with the option to buy it. So you can buy a property on a lease option, a lease purchase, and you can sell a property on a lease option, lease with option to buy. But what if you wanted to buy and sell the same property on a lease purchase? That's going to be called a sandwich lease option. And today, we're going to go over the moving parts of a sandwich lease option, talk about some of the goods and bads, the pros and cons, because in every real estate transaction, there's some good and some bad in it, right? There's always some pros and cons. So let's get right into sandwich lease options today. Greetings, class. This is Chris Haskins with TheRealEstateRoundup.com. My mission and ministry is to raise your financial literacy through real estate investing and entrepreneurship. In doing that, I just want to go over the different strategies to help you get into your next property. It's here, y'all. It's here. Finally, my Foreclosure Summit is here. Today, we're opening up registration. We're going to be showing you how to locate, how to research, how to bid, how to win, how to close these properties that are actually coming to the foreclosure sales. I'm going to have an all-day event for my Foreclosure Summit. It starts at 12 o'clock to 5 o'clock. We're going to go over all the aspects of buying houses from the foreclosure sale, right? It's going to be me. You got me all day, Roundup. Why? Because I love you. And I'm going to have my friend, real estate attorney and investor, Bill Brunchick. He's going to be hanging out with us too, talking about some of the legal aspects of doing foreclosure sales. It's going to be a great event. So make sure you go to the link in the video description below to get signed up for that. Okay. And the early bird registration will end soon. Now keep in mind, there are some chapters in the video description as well. If you don't want to hear me blabbing and going on and on about this stuff, you can skip around and go to the strategies that we're going to cover already. You can fast forward, rewind, boom, 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 if you so choose to do that. And coming up on February 6th, I'm having my first book club meeting. So we're going to be discussing Robert Kiyosaki's new updated version of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm excited to share that with you. I read it. I suggest you to read it. There's a link in the video description for that as well. So join us Saturday, February 6th at 6 o'clock. And also, if you need some financing, Fund and Grow, I've negotiated a discount for all of my Roundup homies. That link is in the video description as well. They have financed over $2.7 million for my Roundup homies. These dudes are just working miracles for you guys. So Fund and Grow, thank you for working with us. Roundup, go get your financing put together. Business credit lines. Okay, so let's get into the sandwich lease option thing here today. Before we can get into the sandwich lease option, we have to understand what a lease option is first, right? Now, I did a full playlist. If you want to see exactly how they're all broken down, so you'll know the moving parts of just a lease option, you can go right there to get to those videos. Those videos are going to cover. Once you watch that, you'll know exactly what a lease option is. But to give you a refresher, you know what? Earl Nightingale says, even if you know everything about a certain topic, it's always good to be reminded from time to time, right? So what is a lease option? You have two different strategies. We're going to mesh them together, lease and the option. Lease option, AKA a lease purchase, right? Lease is going to be a contract, or your Barron's book. If you want to get your Barron's, that link is in the video description as well. The Barron's Real Estate Guide. You got to have a playbook with definitions if you're going to be in this business. Lease is a contract in which, for a payment called rent, the one entitled to possession of the real property, the leaseor, transfers titles to the rights to another lessee for a specific period of time. Basically, you're paying rent to stay there, right? Now, the rent the lease gives you quiet enjoyment, which is AKA called the possession. I want you to keep in mind, just because you own a house doesn't mean you have possession. Doesn't mean you have quiet enjoyment to come and go unobstructable, right? So just because I own a house doesn't mean I can go in with the keys, right? You just can't do that. I remember when I was first starting my real estate career, I actually broke into one of my houses to show it to prospective tenants. Do you know the current tenant called the police on me and they almost arrested me, right? So you can't just go in a house. Just because you own it doesn't mean you have quiet enjoyment. So the lease gives you possession, You can come and go unobstructed, right? No one can stop you from coming and going and having quiet enjoyment. I can enjoy my house whenever I want to. You can get that with the lease just because you own it. Now, you might have both of these rights, right? Real estate has two rights, the lease and the option. So we went over the lease. Let's go over our option. Pocket listing. Our option, the right to purchase or lease a property upon specified terms within a specified period. The right to purchase, all right? So the option is giving us disposition. It determines ownership. Who owns this property? How is this property going to be disposed of? So you can have the lease, gives you quiet enjoyment to come and go. The option determines ownership. Who's going to own it right now for a certain period of time? You can have all type of option terms. You can have 2 years. You can have when somebody dies. You can have when somebody gets married. You can have when somebody goes off to college. Sky's the limit with option terms, right? So we got that down, right? So once again, that lease option video will help you understand lease options. So what is a sandwich lease option? Sandwich lease option is exactly what it is, what it sounds like. It's a sandwich, right? We got two pieces of bread, and then it's got you in the middle. All right. The sandwich lease option is going to connect you with the buyer up here. Your first move, right, is going to be your lease option with the seller. And we have to hook all of that up, right? You have your lease and your option with the seller. Okay. So we're going to get all this wrapped up together. You're going to buy on a lease option and sell on a lease option. So if you need these documents, I will have the link in the video description as well. You can download my lease option document packet that will help you buy and sell on lease option. But why would somebody want to buy a house on a lease option, right? Well, generally speaking, we buy subject to, or we take over the payments, or we pay cash. But if somebody's squeamish and they don't want to deed us the house, then we will consider doing an option to buy, right? Not my most favorite way to do it, but I'm going to go over a case study here shortly of one that we did. Ended up getting tenant tow it all up. Good Lord. Those are the numbers for the case study that we're going to go over today. So the sandwich lease option looks like this. 2 pieces of bread, you in the middle. All right. So your first lease option, right? Your first moving part is going to be your lease option with the seller. All right. So Miss Seller, you have an option, you have a lease and an option to buy the property. Okay. Now you may or may not have a down payment, but we'll get to that in a minute. Your next moving part is going to be your lease option with your buyer. So you've got lease option with the seller, lease option with the buyer, with you in the middle. Okay, you in the middle. So how does that look? So your lease option, if you think of the mindset of a seller or a property owner that's renting their house, their mind is thinking about security deposit, first month rent. Security deposit, first month rent. So you can usually get into these things with a small down payment. So the one that we're going to look at today, you can take a look at the pictures here. Man, this house, this was the tenant. She gave us $8,000 down. She was a cool tenant. She just towed the house all to hell. So that's this house here. We got a down payment. We have to give our seller, because don't forget, the first moving part is us with the seller. We gave our seller $3,000 down and we paid rent for $1,100. That's money, see it's in the red, that's money that's going out, okay? So I'm in the middle here. Then I have another lease option with my tenant buyer. This tenant buyer gave us $8,000 down. So you're gonna have to work this. This is, once again, wealth and real estate strategies. You can't get them overnight. Takes a little time to sink in, okay? So you've got a lease option with your buyer. This buyer brought $8,000 down. Good day, right? Good day. So, and the rent, we charged this tenant $1,200. So we were getting on the spread $100 a month, and the down payment between what I gave the seller and I collected from the buyer, I was able to keep $5,000, right? Not too bad of a deal. Not too bad. Now here's where the roads get a little muddy, right? What if, let's say on the seller side, what if the seller goes out there and gets $1 million tax lien and this buyer is ready to go in and close on this house and clean this thing up and get a new loan and pay them off, right? What's going to happen when this seller can't pass clear title to the buyer? That's why I don't necessarily recommend that everybody or even newbies do sandwich lease option. What if the seller were to die and we can't find the documents if the buyer doesn't have them anymore? Or if the seller goes in out there and refinances the property all to the hill and there's no equity left, right? Or if the seller gets married and transfers the title to their spouse, or what if they want to gift it to somebody else? Because generally speaking, this lease option isn't recorded. Now you can, but the people that we've been dealing with since 2004, they ain't thinking about no recording of an option. So a lot of things can happen to the seller that can hurt the end buyer. But it really won't necessarily hurt the end buyer because you're in the middle. So you're the one that's looking crazy when the buyer when the seller can't pass title to this buyer at the end of this option period, right? So the option, let's say they had a 3-4 year option, and that end buyer is ready to go get a loan and cash them out, right? That's how it works. You lease, you're called a tenant buyer. You got a lease for 4 or 5 years. Then you have an option, ready to cash them out. This seller can't deliver title. Oh boy, it's gonna be a bad hair day for you. If this seller can't clear title and you have taken this down payment from this buyer, you're gonna have to refund that money. And it's not gonna be pretty for you. So you better make sure you either hold some of that money on the side, or you're cool with the seller. Make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. They could go get a judgment. All type of stuff could happen. So that's one of the major hurdles of dealing with lease options. Another thing dealing with sandwich lease options is the buyer. So when the reason sellers do these deals with us is because we're responsible for repairs. When we buy houses on a lease purchase and then we sell them on a lease purchase. So I'm going to tell my seller, Ms. Smith, I'm responsible for all the repairs. You don't have to worry about anything. You're done. But what I'm really doing, I'm passing those repairs down to my tenant buyer. So it's not me going to do the repairs. I'm just saying, look, you do it. Well, what happens when people do what people do, right? What they do. They don't do repairs. It's up to you to either step in and do it, or you're going to tear up the seller's house, right? So let me tell you a story about the one that you're seeing here. The people, the lady gave me $8,000 down, which I kept 5. They tore this property all to hell. I'm see if I can find that footage. I mean, the sink was caving in, the pipes were leaking, the bathroom walls, they ripped down some of the tile off of the tub, tore off doors, busted up holes in the walls. I'm like, and this was in Norfolk, in the Huntersville area, just a rough tenant. Now, she did give us the down payment, right, which was cool. But at the end of the day, I had to say, you know what, Miss Seller, this is another bad. I had 2 options for myself. When your tenant tears up the house and they walk out, we had to evict this person. I can either do it again, or you can have your house back, right? And I don't like doing that to old ladies, anybody in general, right? I don't like saying, look, the tenant tore your house up. We have to figure out how to put it back together. So that's another downside to doing sandwich lease options. You're in the middle. You're the glue, almost like a wholesale deal, making sure the seller does what he's supposed to do and the buyer does what they're supposed to do, right? So these sandwich lease options, I'm not necessarily thinking that a newbie should be getting into this stuff, but it is a good way to get a nice chunk of change. And if you can create a better, see, our rent, what we were charging was $1,200 and we were paying $1,100. If you can get that rent up a little bit, you're talking about a nice spread, passive cash flow without even owning the house. Now that is passive cash flow. So listen, now that you got sandwich lease options down, make sure you subscribe to the channel as we pass 74,000 subscribers, 2 million minutes watched this month. I look forward to meeting you at our Foreclosure Summit. Get out there and make some offers, y'all. Like this content, share with another investor that's looking to get into the real estate business, but they don't quite have the money to buy that next house. It's Chris Haskins. I'll see you on the next video. Bye, everybody.